has a harmonica intro, do they? We do. We can't be normal.
Is that stuck in his throat? Is that what's...
It feels like...
Is he choking on that?
Yeah, no, it's not.
Oh.
Did you hear that, though? Did you hear the harmonica to start? Brittle Star. Stuart Reynolds is our guest today, ladies and gentlemen, on the podcast. He's here, as well as our friend, That Nerd Dad, Joe Williams, is here. Did you like the harmonica bit?
I like to support anyone in their creative endeavors.
So you didn't? Is that right?
It's not about whether I like it or not. The fact that he's creating needs to be applauded. I think that's good.
It's our new intro. He did it on his. This is literally Lachlan Cross, one of our co-hosts, who's busy on a call right now, getting ready to join the program. And I said, "Can you do a harmonica intro for him?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And that's it.
That's pretty good. I like it. I think it's really good. I think it really speaks to the Delta flavor of Toronto.
I like it. How are you? Very nice to meet you, sir. Brittle Star is our guest. You know who he is, Canada's dad. Joining us from, as I mentioned earlier, Steve Jobs' garage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I'm great. It's lovely to be here. Thanks so much for having me on. This is very exciting.
Is it as exciting as you thought it would be? Like when you got the call and Joe sent you a note because you're on his, and you're like, "Hey, we're going to go on another podcast." Where you're like, "Wow, I can't wait to do another podcast in the pandemic."
Well, you asked. The question was, "Is it as exciting as I thought it would be?" And yes, the answer is yes.
You look just thrilled. Anyway, Lachlan's there. There we go, Lach. Dude, we just played the face piano bit for Stuart. He loved it, by the way. Absolutely loved it.
You didn't hear any of that.
No.
Did you hear us, Lach? We just played the face piano bit. You missed it?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you missed it. Stuart loved it. Yeah. You missed it, though. It's a shame.
Well, I think it's the transition that he was able to do there. He was performing, and then he had to set the microphone down back in its case, clean it out, knock the spit out of it, seal it back up, wipe his mouth down, and then he had to get the earbuds on and stuff. So
yeah, I apologize. I'm a bit late. We're having emergency shit here at the radio station. Yeah, that's Lachlan Cross. Stuart, he works at 95.7 Cruise FM. Obviously, you know Joe, that nerd dad. But how are you, and how are you pandemicking? Why don't we start there? Because everybody knows who you are. Well, if you don't, you should. But one of the things that you do is you bring light to everybody's day with your videos. You like to, make people feel a little bit better. You kind of bring the temperature down. But how do you pandemic, and how's it been?
It's been up and down. I mean, this past Monday, I was saying, my wife and I were talking, saying how you could feel the malaise just kind of settling back in. And I think it compounded with January in Canada, and then adding a pandemic on top of that. It's kind of like, okay, all right. Do we have another case of wine? Fantastic. That's good. Yeah, we'll get by that. Call the brewery up. I need another flat of EPA right away. And I know I shouldn't be endorsing self-medicating, but at the same time, it's a pandemic. It's a pandemic.
Good here.
It is, but like I was thinking about before we had you on the show today, I was watching some of your stuff, and you come across like none of this is bugging you. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, it makes me sound stoic, but I'm really not. I mean, I think that, I think back to this time last year or like a year and a half ago, that wasn't a good time. One of my things is I always say, like, we don't realize how dark the pandemic was. Like, we haven't really fully grasped how dark it's been for a variety of reasons. And I mean, if I would go through these like things called pandemic wobbles, where I call them pandemic wobbles. That's not a clinical term, by the way. And I would basically what would happen is my blood pressure would spike because of sort of stress and anxiety, and then I'd be incapacitated for like half a day or a day. and I just have to lie on the floor and just wait for it to pass. And I'm thank God I'm able to do that. I have the kind of job that allows me to be like, you know what? If you want to just be incapacitated, if you've chosen.
Are you making that up?
I'm totally telling you the truth. It's totally serious. Everyone does what they have to do to get by, and I think that's just it. To me, it's a war effort. It's a war effort. Mm-hmm. And if the thing is, it's like at the beginning of the pandemic, people were saying, Shakespeare wrote King Lear during the plague, and you're like, screw off. The biggest brag that Shakespeare should have is that he survived the plague. That's it. Yeah. So I think with the pandemic, it's like, you know what? I survived. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, it's fascinating too, because that was one of the overarching themes when I watched your videos, and I knew you were coming on, and I thought, he brings so much light and so much joy, and I call you the world's nicest anti-vaxxer troll, but that's just my opinion. But you do such an incredible job of delivering the messaging, and not just delivering the messaging, giving some people a laugh, being a little acerbic and sarcastic. But, and then, there's got to be moments, right? And having that moment is super fucking human, for anybody that's going through this. And when you're a content guy, you live online, it's got to be heavy coming back at the same time, right?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, I started on Vine, right? Like about 9 years ago. And Vine, for those who don't know, was a 6.4 second looping video platform. And I had a decent amount of success in that. But its primary audience, for the most part at the beginning of it anyway, was 8 to 13-year-olds. And they are cruel, cruel people. They are very, very cruel. They're hurtful. They are really the lowest of the low when it comes to society. And I think that, I put up with a lot of tremendous hate comments from those stupid kids. And it made me realize I don't need to read the comments. I always say, like, nice comments are nice comments, lovely comments are lovely. Yeah. But I don't really care. Watch it, or if you watch it and enjoy it, that's fantastic. If you watch something I'm doing and you don't like it, oh well, whatever.
Yeah. But were you always like that? Because you've been at this for a while, right? Like you've been at this 9 years. You said you started Vine like 2013. Mm-hmm. And then obviously Vine disappeared. You made that transition. You built this massive following, by the way, and I've loved watching it. You can get them on YouTube, Brittle Star on YouTube, where you can see videos some people like, video nobody like, and you can also see some fast health, and you can get faster and healthier. But from Vine to that's a grind, right? Like it's not the way what you've become today isn't just like, oh, well, that guy does videos. I can do videos too, right?
Yeah, I think the big thing about people who often say, I want to do what you're doing, it's like, well, you can. Like that's the great thing about social media and being a content creator on social media, is that you have the TV studio is on your phone. You can do whatever you need to do right there. That's amazing. But at the same time, it's not just about, winging out one video and it gets successful and then that's the end of it. I mean, you have to realize that you have to dig in, and you have to, invest in yourself, and you have to keep churning out content. I mean, it's kind of like, the old saying that if Coca-Cola stopped advertising for one day, their sales would drop 10%. And it seems ludicrous because you're like, well, it's Coca-Cola. Why would they need to even advertise anymore? Everyone knows Coke. Mm-hmm. But it's like it's that profile thing of like, and especially now, things are so ephemeral, and so it just kind of, you'll just disappear in the tide if you don't sort of keep churning out something to keep people, make them remind them that you exist. So, I mean, it's a lot of work. It's really hard to say it's a lot of work. I mean, it's really fun work, which is great, but it is a lot of work though. And it is like,
it is,
I get to make my own hours and stuff like that, which is awesome. But at the same time, those hours are weird sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wonder about motivation, and quite often I'm trying to figure this out for myself. Like when we do what we do you think you have, like, how much of an impact do you think you're having on the public, Stuart?
Massive. No, I don't.
Because I do this for me, right? Like I do this for myself, but I'm also sort of that cynical side of me. Also sort of thinks, that no one really gives a flying what I think.
Well, I mean, the thing is, right, the best part of social media is if you create something, or rather, the way to evaluate if something is a great post or a piece of content on social media is if it can be used by other people as self-expression. That's why things become viral. That's why things get shared. That's why it resonates with certain people, is because people can look at something, and it's such an intimate medium, right? Like it's, even if you're you could be on your laptop or your desktop or whatever, but if you're usually consuming it on your phone and these like sort of, intimate, vulnerable moments. And
the toilet. You mean the toilet?
I didn't want to say that, but that's exactly
the Dean Blundell show. It's the toilet.
That's right. But if you're consuming it there, I mean, you see something on your screen that is like, hey, that's how I feel, or that's how I think, or that's how I see myself in that. And that's pretty powerful stuff. And that's the great part about social media is that, it's the big bad world. It's the big bad world on your phone. I mean, it's people always ask me about, I often get asked about parents saying my kid wants to get into YouTube or something, and they're worried about it. And it's like, well, yeah, you have to really prepare your kid, but it's kind of like dropping them off in Times Square. It's like, it's amazing, but it's also extremely dangerous,
Yeah.
So you have to just prepare yourself for that.
Back to the haters, as the kids call them, the haters. I'm consistently amazed at what people take umbrage with online. And when you're, yeah, I know.
I'm sick of the umbrage takers.
Are you really? Let's get rid of the umbrage taking right now.
Yeah, it's too much. Don't you have enough umbrage? That's the thing.
I've got no more umbrage to give. You can't keep taking my umbrage. But
people feel obliged to react to things. Right. I think that's kind of what you're getting at. I think that's the idea. Is that we've been trained in social media for the past 10 years or more that you click like when you see something. If you need to click like, or you need to comment, or you need to share, or you need to engage somehow. And what's interesting is a couple things. One is that you don't have to do that. Like, that's just a very unnatural way to live life. And then secondly, I've noticed, like we were talking about this in our house this past week or so, that I've noticed that people will watch TikTok videos and not click like. And I thought to myself, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going through going, that video is hilarious. Next video. I love that video. Next video. I'm not clicking like. You know what I mean? So I think we feel trained to react to things, and of course the easiest thing to react to is to be angry at something, and I think that's why it sticks out.
I think that's why everything that gets a lot of stuff that gets a reaction is the stuff that garners anger, like that brings anger towards itself, right? That's the stuff that sort of surfaces to the top.
Joe?
Well, I pointed out on Twitter the other day. So Doug Ford has become a trigger of mine, and I started kind of hate posting on his shit. And all of a sudden on Twitter, that's all I'm seeing is Doug Ford stuff. And I commented the other day, I'm like, I'm gonna perpetuate it further by commenting on the fact that the algorithm has figured me out. It knows I dislike him, and it's feeding it to me all day long, and I cannot help myself.
This is what you have to do. This is what you have to do on social media for your own sanity. One is to avoid algorithmic feeds at all costs if you can. So on Twitter, go to the little stars in the top right corner, change it to latest tweets. So it's just chronological from who you follow. Mm-hmm. Then Twitter's amazing for that. And that's the best strength it has. But the home feed is horrible because it's all it's going to do is it's a curated list of things that you've engaged with, and you've most likely engaged with things that made you angry. And then you just get like a whole bunch of crap filling up your screen. I mean, we did a live stream on Facebook for 5 years, and we started off with like 300,000 people watching, and it was really exciting, really fun, and it would dwindle down for various reasons for Facebook Live. But we had a pretty good core audience, but we found out that one of the reasons we were getting less and less reach is because all our comments, we get like 1,000 comments in a 40-minute show, and all our comments were positive. So no one was like, I hate you, suck my ween. No one was saying that stuff. And it was like, then Facebook was like, well, no one cares about this, I guess. Everyone's happy.
Yeah. That's interesting that you bring that up, because that's one of the hardest things to learn in the radio business. And I've I've been saying for a long, long time, but it took me a while to learn this, that if everyone likes you, you're going to be unemployed very quickly. Like if you have no hate, you're in trouble. Like that. I always gauge my success by the number of complaints coming in, because that means people are still listening. The thing that I've noticed that's been changing, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but there's always been an element of this, but I think it's growing. It's the experts out there. It's the people that everybody seems to have this opinion, but they're not coming at it from the perspective of, hey, have you thought about this? It's, or I tried this one time. It's, you guys are idiots. Why don't you do this? We get texts like this morning, we got a text. And I engaged the guy by saying, hey, thanks for the suggestions on our music. I'll let my boss know. And I always do that just to be a bit of a dick, just sort of wave the flag like, hey, this isn't your job. You probably have an opinion about music, but and I just to be like sort of that passive aggressive asshole. He literally commented back with, hey, give him my number. I'd love to tell him how to do it. I swear to God.
I'll take a run at program director. Sure. I'm pretty good at a Spotify playlist.
Yeah. So I literally said to the boss in our staff meeting, by the way, Nick will be calling you sometime today to give you advice on how to program the radio station. It's insane. Am I wrong? Is that growing?
Everyone has a podcast.
Oh, I think exactly. This is right now. People don't realize this, but they're watching 4 different podcasts right now.
It's true.
But I think it's, the thing with social media is that it's the classic thing. It's given everyone a voice, and that's the great thing, and that's also the worst thing. But it's like it's given everyone a megaphone. Everyone feels that their input is important now, and it's humbling, I think, as well. Like especially for me when I do stuff and it does really, really well, I think, wow, that's great. I'm glad that resonated. But I always have to kind of check myself by going, yeah, but that doesn't mean that everything that I think and say is going to be right. Like, I mean, I'm just, and I also try to temper that with this notion of like, don't listen to me. I'm not an expert. I'm an idiot. Go figure this out. So, everyone calm down and go figure this out yourself.
Mm-hmm. But do you, when you post something, so here's just a quick question, because I noticed that when we started doing this about 3 years ago, I was like, where's the growth area? Where do I go with my content for growth areas, as opposed to, not chasing algorithms and doing that stuff. But when you generally put out content, you're putting out authentic content. That's content that you're like, hey, listen, this is something that means something to me. It's got a message. There's a purpose to it. I mean, not always is it like your New Year's resolutions, which we'll get to in just a second. But, when you're putting out something into the public atmosphere where you're like, hey, listen, we're addressing, case in point, let me just play this. And it was one of my favorites. I don't know how well it did, if it's on the videos you liked, kind of liked, or didn't like on your YouTube page. But this was the one with the Titanic. And I thought the parallel that you drew to what we're dealing with is great, which is when I thought, oh, this guy's the best internet troll on the planet, too. Anyway, here it is. Watch this.
I can't believe it sank. Me either. I think it was an inside job by someone on the ship to sink the ship. Exactly. I agree. Ahoy! It's the Carpathia. We've come to rescue you. Where'd they come from? We'll throw down life preservers. Grab on and we'll lift you to safety. Bit convenient, don't you think? The Titanic sinks and they just show up? I don't trust them. What's for dinner? What? What are you serving for dinner? I think tonight's roast beef. Is it an open bar? What? Don't be so elusive. He asked if it's an open bar. All we can drink. I'm gonna need a stiff drink. It's cold here in the ocean. No, it's not an open bar, but you're going to drown. You need to get on board now. Nah. We're gonna see how this plays out. Yeah, I mean, what happens if the Carpathia sinks? We'll get another ship to rescue us. Oh, there it is. A never-ending line of ships that we have to get on. Pathetic. Don't you think? Jack? Jack?
So does that count as trolling or a public service announcement?
I think it counts as a public service just because I look so damn good in a tuxedo. That takes people's
Public
mind
service
off the
trolling.
pandemic. Yeah, it's like people look at me in a tuxedo and they're like,
Jack,
you know what?
too.
I don't remember anything about the pandemic. This is fantastic.
And how many people that took umbrage with that knew what you were talking about when you were pretending to be on the Carpathia?
Well, I mean, there's a little. I mean, that's probably like. I think I was gonna say I don't like making fun of people that are horrible, but I do like making fun of people that are horrible. And I think that one of the best ways to do that is to do something just above their heads, which is really funny. I think that's really, really great. I think when I think I tweeted a little while ago, but the worst part about this pandemic is that it's forced us to care about what the awful people do. And it's like, I don't want to know what goons do. I don't care what they do. But now I have to care what they do. And at least we can do is have a little fun with that at the same time.
Yeah, and entertain people with it, right? Like it's kind of that double-edged sword, which is why your content, I think, resonates so well with each other. I know your kids are involved in a lot of the stuff that you do as well. Like this New Year's Eve thing. It's a quick one, but it made me laugh my ass off. Watch it.
Happy New Year!
It's a great statement on life and everybody going
It's so
back to it.
adorable. Do you know, I'll give you a trivia piece about that one. That was like the last New Year's Eve thing that Vine did. And that Vine was played in Times Square on the big screen, which was interesting.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, that's
for
all
you.
right. That's it.
Yeah.
There you go. 6
Is
seconds of
Vine?
fame.
You said Vine was dead, Dean. I thought Vine
Yeah.
was still around. No, or did they put a bullet in it?
Can you go to hell, Lachlan? Some of us had 1.2 million followers on Vine.
Did that
So it
suck
is-
when they
Okay.
when you found out Vine was going under. Did you go, oh, what? Like,
Well, I think first thing was, should we recast the kids? Like, do we really need them anymore? That was awful. That was terrible. We had a little bit of heads up, so it wasn't too bad. But at the same time, it was like, ugh, I'd
What
worked so
happened?
hard.
When
Why
Twitter
did they
bought
do it?
Twitter
Like,
bought
you
them,
bet-
right?
yeah. I think
Well,
so.
Twitter bought Vine before it was even released. So Twitter bought Vine before it was actually available to the public.
Okay.
And then Twitter, the people at Twitter who were in charge of it just drove it right into the ground. And
So you're confident being on Twitter now, are you, or do you have a little PTSD
no,
from
I am not. I am not. I quickly established the philosophy of be platform agnostic after that. Pledge
Yeah.
no allegiance.
Is it weird? Is the attention you've garnered? Is it weird? Do you have to guard against doing things because you're on a heater? Like when you're doing content, or is this like? And has it changed? Are you amazed at it too? That's the other thing, that you can legitimately just be the best of yourself for yourself and not have to do it for anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty intoxicating, is to be able to do what I do. I mean, I was saying yesterday to someone that they'd asked like, what's next? And I was like, well, weirdly, I was like offered like a fairly prominent company said, hey, listen, do you want to make a show? Just tell us what kind of show you want to make. And then I was like, that's really exciting. And then like 20 years ago, I would have bit their hand off. Whereas now I'm like, I don't know. I got up around 9:30 today. What do I need? What do I need a TV show for? You know what I mean? I got
Are you
beer in the
serious?
garage. Yeah, no, I'm totally serious. But I was like, what more do I
That's
need?
common.
I don't know if I want like a full-time gig where I have to answer to someone else. Right now, I get to be deciding like, oh, I'm going to do a video about this today. And like no one's, I was also asked this past week if when I make a video, if I share it with people to see if it's funny, like what it has to find out what they think of it. And I'm like, no, why would I do that? It's funny. I know it's funny.
I'm me.
Just put it out. Yeah.
That's got to be weird, right? I mean, just that change in itself. Like I read something back in 2013. You were, there's financial issues that
Oh,
your
yeah.
family was having, and we all get that. I mean, we've been building this for a couple of years now, and there's a time when I would have jumped at doing all kinds of things at a bus station for $100. But now at that point where it's like, if
That's why
someone-
Lachlan was late.
I'm still there. I'm still at the bus stop.
we all are
Playing
in
the
some-
harmonica.
Yeah. Old
But,
soft hands lock.
Is that That's the goal, though, isn't it? Like the autonomy to be able to have that moment where someone goes,
Oh,
"Hey,
yeah.
we'll give you a TV show, Stuart. You're Brittle Star. We'll make your dreams come true." And you're like, "I'm kind of making my dreams come true on my own right now. I don't really feel like doing more work."
I mean, I think my view would probably be different if I was younger. You know, like if I mean, I didn't start Vine until I was 43, right? So I'm at an age now where it's kind of like, this is pretty comfortable. I can pay for stuff. You know, I've got a nice house. My family's taken care of. I have lovely kids.
Got a Gibson behind you.
I got guitars. Yeah, I've got my own line of butter tart vodka right there. But I mean, you know, like it's there's stuff I want to do, but at the same time, I don't think I'm lusting after more and more and climbing up and stuff. It's like I'm my whole goal of getting into my whole motivating factor initially for this was, if I make videos on the internet and when people started to recognize me, it took away my social anxiety of when I would walk into a room, which I've had since I was like in my late teens, where I'd walk into a room and someone would be like, "Hi, how are you? And what do you do?" And I would be like, "Oh God, what a horrible question. What do you do?"
I'm sweating.
It would be terrible, right? Horrible. Because, you know, it doesn't matter what you say, that they're judging you and it's all really weird. But then if I feel comfortable now, usually when I walk in somewhere, people are like, "Oh, you're that guy who makes videos." And it's like, it's done. Then I don't have to worry about it. Then I can find, like, what do you do? And make them feel horrible.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I had a quick conversation with my co-host, Grant Johnson, this morning. And he goes, "Oh, you got Stuart on." Yeah, he goes, I love that guy. And one of the more interesting things about Grant, and I see a bit of your humor in him. The two of you are very simpatico with respect to, and he's a funny mother.
Oh, thank God, because Stuart asked if he was a lot like Grant prior to getting on the podcast.
I know he didn't.
It's the only reason I came on.
But
Grant?
But it's funny. Grant, his worst nightmare is getting in an Uber and having to talk to the driver, or in an elevator and having to small talk. He brings it up all the time. It's his biggest source of anxiety. And he's on a radio show. And it's interesting, that sort of that dynamic in this business that we have. I meet a lot of people in radio and in entertainment where, in a social situation at a party, they're terrified. Yet they have no problem getting up on stage, performing, doing comedy, acting, whatever it is.
I think it's control, Locke. I think it's control. I think when you're up on stage, because when I did stand up, I was the same way. I was a nervous wreck right up until the moment I got on stage, and then all of a sudden I have control. I am in control of the situation. When you're on the radio, when you're doing a podcast, even today, I'm not. When I'm interviewing someone, I'm in control of the situation. Today, I was nervous about coming on because I don't know what the fuck Dean's going to say.
Probably nothing good.
Exactly. I don't know what's going to get me fired this afternoon. So I have to be, I was worried about coming on the show today because I'm not in control. Yeah. But if it was the other way around, I'd be cool and breezy.
I feel the same way.
Running out of beer.
Well, exactly. Some real fear. Exactly. But that's exactly, I mean, I was sort of like, if I go into a big room, like I did an event, the first in-person event I had done since the pandemic started, and that happened in October in Ottawa. And it was a fairly big event. And I was like a basket of nerves until they handed me my microphone, and I went up and did 20 minutes of ridiculous comedy, finishing with a musical number at the end, in front of like these these business elite people, like super wealthy people, super high up important people, big politicians, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I don't care. I got a microphone. Shut up. You got to listen to me now. And then as soon as I put the microphone down, if I could have unzipped my skin and slid out the window, I would have done that then. But so if I got the microphone, or a harmonica in Lachlan's case, you feel like you're in control. Yeah.
Yeah, what a right turn for the conversation we're having, because we're all the same, right? Like I quit drinking 4 years ago because I legitimately could not be in a room with people and not be affected by something, because the reality of having to make small talk with people or have them, and I don't know if it's the duplicity that you grew up in, or maybe, obviously we all have had and gone through dark times. We've all had moments and rock bottoms, and we've all seen, the worst, hopefully getting to the best. But in that moment, it's hard to explain to people if you're a performer or if you do anything like this, it's hard to explain to people, and they say, but how is that possible because of what you do, right? How is it possible for you to not want to go to a dinner party of 7 people, but you will stand up in front of a bunch of people, do a song and dance, a little soft shoe, crack a couple jokes, and then the second it's over, you're a wreck again. And it's hard to explain.
Best part about COVID is that built-in excuse.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Can't make it.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah, I really liked it at the beginning of the pandemic when we went into lockdown and all that kind of stuff. I didn't like lockdown. For everyone watching, no one likes lockdown. No one likes it. Okay? However, my point is, coming into that point, one of the things I thought was funny, but there was a psychologist who said a number of people who suffer from anxiety are like, see? And I was like, yeah, exactly. Excuses are built in. I'm sorry. I have to stay in and survive. That's it.
I got a lot of heat about 2 months into the lockdown, the first one, where I said, well, my life really hasn't changed much. I go to the liquor store. I go home. I go to work.
Yeah.
I go to the grocery store. I go to work. I go to the liquor store. I'm not doing anything with people.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's how you tell those stories, right? It's like how you explain that situation to people. And I think I try to be super careful and say, like, I know how fortunate I am because, like, for me, work-wise, I work from home. I have worked from home for the past 9 years. The thing that's really cut back for me is I don't get to travel for business as much, or really at all in the past little bit. But apart from that, yeah, I'm exactly the same. It's like I don't know. I switched to getting my beer delivered. That was the biggest sacrifice I made, and that wasn't really a sacrifice. That was okay. So I'm super lucky. I get that. I'm super lucky.
What changes have you made? I get my beer delivered now.
Yeah, exactly.
I
We've all paid in our own way.
I said to my dad, like, when the pandemic started, we're like 3 months in, and keep in mind, like, my dad's the kind of guy, when you go, we're immigrants from England, he's very stoic. He's like, loud noises bother him for some reason. And if he's got more than 8 people in his house, he's literally got a TV and a rocking chair in the furnace room where he can go hide from those people. Little go hide. And I said to him at the start of the pandemic, I'm like, so, how you feeling? And he's like, bud, the world is coming to me.
It has, though, hasn't it? I mean, it really has. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, if we spend all that time, and I'm a big proponent of this because this is the kind of work that I've really tried to invest myself in. How do I make the reality that I live in the best reality possible, right? Like, we see people screaming and yelling about lockdowns, and I'm with you, folks, just so we know, I am not a proponent of lockdowns. Ideally, we wouldn't want to have to get shots that we didn't need, but we got them. Mandates-ish, yes. But this came
like he
across
kind of likes lockdowns. Like he's kind of into them. No, they're terrible. Little lockdown. Huh?
Hey,
Maybe just for a couple of nights. You know what I'm saying?
Let's just try.
No.
Let's see how everybody feels about it.
Well, no one wants this. That's what, the fighting is over the same things that we don't want. We'd rather not be here either. But I'd love to get your opinion on this because you're a big proponent of vaccines. You're consistently telling people, hey, listen, it's not a hard thing. You just got to go get a shot. And you kind of demystify it. And I love it. But what do you make of this headline that just came out like 0 minutes ago? Mandatory vaccinations coming to Canada, says Health Minister Jean-Yves Duclos. If we read it, he says, press conference just happened about an hour ago before we got on. Asked about it. He said in French, I personally think we're going to get there at some point. Saying, I see it coming personally, not now. I don't think we're there yet, but I think decisions need to be had about mandatory vaccinations because we have to get rid of COVID-19. This should go well.
Yeah. Well, here's the annoying thing about this is that this is my opinion, obviously.
Yeah.
And again, I'm an idiot. I'm a fully trained idiot, but that's as far as my qualifications go. But I mean, the annoying thing about this is that I think everyone's kind of on the same page of like, we shouldn't have to mandate these things, should we? I mean, it's an airborne virus, and we've got the solution to it. And it's basically tried to destroy our economy, our mental health, our kids' lives, and stolen 2 years of our lives. And oh wait, all we have to do, we've got the solution. We can just do that. Oh, we should maybe just do that. So we shouldn't have to say to people, like the Titanic sank, and we shouldn't have to say to them, kick your legs. We shouldn't have to tell them what to do to save themselves. But at the same time, I noticed there was also a headline today, with Quebec doing the vaccine proof of vaccination for the liquor stores and cannabis stores, and everyone's like, and even myself and my wife were like, I don't know. Maybe that's a step too far. And then the headline today was huge surge in first doses of COVID vaccine in Quebec. And it's like, so this wasn't a principle thing.
No.
This is just a convenience thing?
Because most of the anti-vaxxers I know have stills.
Yeah. They make moonshine in the woods. Yeah.
They're never out of alcohol.
Yeah, and they always have squirrel hats. No, we see it every time they do this, don't we, Stuart? Don't we? Every time they say, I got to mandate it for healthcare workers or you lose your job.
I guess I got to do it. Yeah.
And then they're like, fuck. And then all of a sudden, okay, well, let's get the job. Okay. Well, and listen, when Quebec did that headline that came out yesterday made me laugh because I thought, well, why don't we just do that? Right? Like, why don't we just say, put a vaccine in front of a bottle of booze, someone's going to get a vaccine. You put it in front of a joint, someone's going to get a vaccine, right? To me, that just seems easy. But the outcry wasn't even matched by the surge. Like something like it tripled in a day. The percentage of people that got vaccinated traditionally in a day tripled in Quebec that day, right?
Sure. I mean, I think that's the annoying part is that it's not really a principles, right? It's just a convenience thing. It's just like, I'm not going to do this because I don't know what's in it. I can't get a bottle of whiskey. Okay, stick it in me. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't compute. But I think the thing is, and I'm trying so hard to understand, people's perspectives and stuff. And I think that for a small percentage of the population, I think that they just haven't been able to process what's happening. I think that they haven't been able to figure out. It's terrifying. They're kind of overlooking the fact that it's a historic event that's happening, and they're like, well, surely this can't happen in my lifetime. There must be some other reason for it, or there must be some other way out of it, because nothing big has ever happened to me. And it's like, no, this is big. This is a big deal. People are going to know about this for hundreds of years. It's a really, really big deal, and we kind of have to stick together and do what we have to do to get through it. But I think for that small sort of 15% of the population or less, when you count kids and all that kind of stuff, it gets down to almost close to 10%. It's a case of, they just can't wrap their heads around it until you put those real world things in front of them that say, if you want that bottle of whiskey, you're going to have to get a vaccine. And they go, okay, because that's part of whatever to them. So I don't know. It's really hard to grasp for me.
They'll be getting vaccinated kids to buy them booze. It'll be the other way around now.
Exactly.
Booze mules.
Hey, kid, are you vaccinated? Can you buy me some booze?
Do you remember back in the day when we were kids? I don't know if you guys did. My parents used to smoke, and they'd send me to this corner store for their smokes when I was like 6 years old. Did your parents ever do that? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my parents never saw. My aunt did, and my cousin and I went once to a Becker's, for those who know what Becker's stores were. And we went to a Becker's and walked in with a note for a pack of king-size de Maurier, and we could spend the change on a half moon and a flaky, a passion flaky was what we got to get as our payment for picking up these smokes. And we shopped around. We walked into the store. This is an honest to God true story. Walked into the store and noticed the young woman behind the counter with her hands up, and a guy with a pillowcase on his head holding something like a pipe or something. And we were like, oh yeah, and did our thing because we were idiots. We were like 10 and 12, and we chose the right flaky that hadn't been crushed, a good flaky that was still really puffy, and make sure the Joe Louis was like a good, and all that kind of stuff. And then took it to the counter, and the girl said, "I'm being robbed," and we were like, well, oh my God, sorry. And
should we come
then, well, then what we did is, this is also true. We ran out the front door because we saw the guy bolt out the back door. We ran out of the front door around the back of the building. We're 10 and 12. Ran to the back of the building, got to the corner of the building, and went to ourselves, we're 10 and 12, and ran back inside the building and locked the door. So that's where sending your kids for smokes, you put them right in the line of crime, right there.
Did you tell your mom when you got back, hey, listen, this is the last time I'm buying your fucking smokes?
We were stopped by the police. The police dropped us off at home, and the first thing my aunt is like, where's my de Maurier?
That's bizarre. My mom smoked de Maurier.
On the counter.
King size.
Here's your smokes.
It's like related.
Is it true that you made a New Year's resolution once to start smoking?
I did. Yeah, in 1994, I did. I was like, you may not remember this, but in 1994, they, in an effort to cut down on the illegal trade of contraband cigarettes, where you could drive up to near like Cornwall, Ontario, and you could get them super cheap on like reservations and stuff, and so the government dropped the taxes down really cheap. So that's the kind of conviction I have. See, I'm no better than someone who says I'm not going to get a vaccine, so like I have
Canada's
to.
dad, ladies and
Exactly.
gentlemen. Former illegal smoke smuggler.
I didn't illegally smoke them. I waited until the government dropped the taxes,
Okay,
and then and it was things were going terribly, and my first marriage was falling apart. I was just a young man, and I thought that's it. I'm moving to Europe, and I'm going to start smoking because I thought that might be the answer. Maybe that's going to turn things around for me. Maybe if I get emphysema or some sort of lung cancer, but I get to maybe hang out with people with accents. That'd be really great. And it didn't. I lasted for like 2 weeks. 'Cause I also have asthma, and I'm an idiot. So it's like, do I look cool? Do I look cool?
I read your newsletter, which is why you got to join his newsletter, by the way. You can just go to @Brittlestar on Twitter and sign up for his newsletter, which is why I did. And I read it. And under here it said the move to Europe did not move to Europe. It turns out the whole thing requires more than just drunken resolve. I did start smoking for 2 weeks, and I stopped, and I was reminded 2 things. Cigarettes aren't cheap for someone who's broke, and asthma doesn't pair well with Du Maurier.
Because they raised the taxes again.
Yeah.
They're like, oh no. People were like turning ashen gray in the streets. They're like, they could buy cartons of cigarettes for $5, and it was just like people were devouring cigarettes, and the government was like, everyone's just gonna die. We're gonna have to crank the taxes up again. And then I was like, I'm out. $7 for a pack? No way. Not worth it.
What are they now? Like $25 for a pack of smokes?
I have no idea. I have zero idea how much they are now. I bought like 4 years ago. I bought
$20.
No, it's not. Is it really?
I think it's 20.
How much are smokes?
Pack of smokes.
Folks, in the comments section, they'll tell us in 2 seconds. How much are smokes? I want to say they're like $24 here in Ontario.
That
a lot of people are buying the res cigarettes now. Everybody I know that smokes has a contact.
Yeah,
$15 to $20. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's $15 to $20. It's Stoney wants you to know if you want to start chewing, Stuart. You can. It's $30 for a tin of Skull. Jesus,
I think that's what my image is I think that's what my image is missing.
Yeah, chew. I know a lot of guys that bring chew in from the States. Like they get like wheels of it, right?
Yeah,
right.
I've always respected the chewers. Like I've always of all the people because it's such a commitment. You got to go everywhere with like a half full Gatorade cup. You know what I mean? Like it's a choice. And it's
who doesn't want
lung cancer?
Who doesn't want to look like Sling Blade as well? That's just cool.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember those buzzes that you got from a cigarette. Like if you hadn't had one for a long time, I smoked really, really heavy. And even when I was smoking, if I did the odd chew or whatever, that was just like a punch in the face. You get just wrecked off that stuff. So yeah, it goes right to your bloodstream.
I didn't know that.
Nicotine.
Yeah, I taught high school briefly for 1 semester. I wasn't fired. I didn't touch any children. I left teaching. And
what's crazy is that you have to add those pre-disclosures before everything you say.
And for those who know, I've never been in the blue pages. Yeah, I've never been in the blue pages. Exactly. No, 1 semester. That's even worse.
1 semester.
It requires qualification to tell the people why you've left, and to also say you've never been in the blue pages as well, which is a teachers union thing.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, ask your teacher friends; they know.
Yeah.
There was a kid who was a smart kid, great kid, and he was into chewing tobacco, and it was like, I've said to him, I liked him a lot, and I was like, do you think this is helping you in any way? Like, do you have a girlfriend? No? You surprised at that? Is this something like, why are you doing this? And I had to tell him about someone I knew who had like got their jaw like fell apart because of cancer. And it's like, just stop it. Just stop it. That's of all the cancerous tobacco type things you could do, that is just the dumbest, I think.
The chew, the snooze.
Oh,
they
the
call it.
chew. Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah.
Harsh.
And gross.
Did you invent when you tried to warn them? Did you do what most people do and invent like a worst case scenario, like you do when you tell your kids,
Yeah.
"Hey, listen, if you do this,
No, I
you'll
just-
die in 4 days."
I didn't do that, but I did play up my relationship to a woman that happened to be a crossing guard near our home when I was growing up, who lost her cancer. I lost her chin to cancer, and I don't think that she chewed, but she might have.
Why do we do that? We do that with our kids too. Do you notice that? Like,
Yeah.
I remember when my kids were younger and they would kind of make a bad decision. I'm like, if you do that, you'll probably go to jail forever.
You know what's interesting about parenting? I think that parents are like the first people to treat you as an individual, and then they stop treating you as an individual as you get older and you become an individual. They don't really want you to be an individual. But like you're a parent to a kid who's like 3, and you're reasoning with them in the mall or something, and you're like, come on, really? Do you think this is the way you're supposed to behave? And the kid's like, I'm gonna crap in my pants right now. There's no rules that apply to me.
You're right. Do you fight with your kids for social media dominance? Because it's got to be weird for them that you're like Canada's biggest social media star, one of them, and you got 2 kids that are like in the demo, and you're like, hey, look, another 180,000 views today. What do you got, kid?
Well, I'll tell you, like my oldest son is more into production and he's much happier. He's much more like my wife and doesn't really want that limelight, doesn't want to be the center, doesn't need it, doesn't want it. And that's great. So he's much more involved in production and he does really, really well with that. My youngest son is involved in social media content creation and has been since he was 11 and is quite successful on TikTok and does brand deals and all that kind of stuff. And I think because when we came into it and because it was so dire for us, I think that it was kind of like it was kind of like the Beverly Hillbillies accidentally striking oil. It was kind of like, oh, this is what we do now. And everyone's like, oh God, thank God. Okay, good. Something came along. So it's been more collaborative than it has been competitive. That saying, we call our living room the place where pitches come to die. If you have an idea for something, never share it in our living room because it will be destroyed. Doesn't matter how good it is.
Shark Tank of social media.
Oh yeah, even more bloodbath though.
Yeah.
Do you guys get after it? Do you do business together, right? It's kind of one of the coolest things in the world. Is that I know you do a morning kind of program with your wife from time to time. Mm-hmm. You do a lot of collaborating with your kids. Was that a weird thing for you to get? And I know you said you fell into it and your situation was dire. But like, was there anything for you to get over? Was it just like, I guess we got to do what we got to do, or is this is one of the joys in your life now too?
I mean, when we got into it, it was easy for me to get into it because I was like happy again, being comfortable, being in the spotlight or having the microphone. That's where I'm at ease. I don't panic when I'm in that situation. For my wife. And for my youngest son, it was also no problems at all. For my older son, he was not, again, like my wife, not really into it. And it was like, he did really well, but it wasn't really for him. And my wife, Shannon, I tell the story often about how, when I would start doing the videos, she was like, I never want to be in a video. I don't want to be in a video. And then Disney contacted us and said, hey, we're going to fly you and your family to California. We're going to pay for the whole thing. We're going to pay for your food and your travel and accommodation. You're going to make some videos for us. We're going to pay you thousands of dollars. And my wife was like, where would you like me to stand? And what do you want me to wear? So she's heavily motivated by money. And well, doesn't matter who's paying. Doesn't matter who's paying. Doesn't have to be a huge global conglomerate like Disney. Could be, as long as you got the cash, she'll stand. She'll do blocking. So, yeah.
Dude, she's funny too, man. Like you guys compliment each other, and it's crazy because the canvas is wherever you guys are, right? In front of your house, your living room, the kitchen.
I think that's really important. I think especially for social media content, I found that it's fun to be able to do like the green screen stuff and make it cool and put you in different places. But it's also really important to just kind of like use the environment you're in and make that your video universe, like make that, become alive for people. Yeah. Whether it be the front door or living room or whatever, like people are it's funny because we've had people who we know, we don't just let strangers into our house, but people who we know who come in and they go, oh my God, it feels like I've been in your house before because I know this from this video and this from this video and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see your house number on
Also
the front of your
kinda
house.
creepy.
Or I'd like to house number, address, publish for people.
No, afraid
Those
not.
people that won't get on the
No.
Carpathia. No, any of those
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, we've had people show up before, so yeah.
Have you
none of
really?
that.
Have you had people
Yeah,
show
yeah.
up to your house?
Yeah, we've had some lovely people show up to the house. We haven't had any horrible people show up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but we've had some interesting people who have come scouring the town for us before, and it's like, yeah, we're out of town. man.
That's got to be weird,
That's
right?
weird.
Like Stratford is where the Beebs is from.
Yeah, I
And
know.
They're looking for Brittlestar. They're looking for Stewart. You're like,
Well,
"Hey,
I
listen,
mean-
Justin was here like last week. Go look for him.
That's not that weird, Dean. I think you can back up on that comment
Oh,
a little
sorry,
bit. It's
sorry.
totally fine if they're coming looking for me instead of the Beebs.
Okay.
But it is really strange and it's really odd. And I mean, 99.9% of the people are just lovely and they're fine. They're absolutely fine.
I get the odd one that comes to the front of the building because you can go to our webpage and find out the address of the radio station. So when I say something that offends people, I get the odd guy that'll buzz up and go, send Lachlan down. I want to kick his ass. So, there's that.
That's nice. Do you think that ever works for those people? Like, do you think they ever think this for once and for all, I'm going to solve this?
I had a guy waiting in the parking lot for me. He was smarter
Did you
than to
really?
ring the buzzer. Yeah.
That's scary. That's scary stuff, though.
Oh,
You
yeah,
don't need
yeah.
that kind of nonsense from people. You know what I mean? It's nonsense.
Well,
Don't do
I
that.
think there's usually this perception that that it's a good idea until the guy walks up to you, right? And
Right.
then I think there was a change of heart, right? Plus
Yeah.
he was 5'3".
I like how you're taking this opportunity now to really just dig in. Plus, he's
Sure,
5'3", a little bit ugly.
You're 5'3",
And
Locke.
it was also 9:30 in the morning, 10
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning, and he was clearly drunk.
Right.
So there was that.
Well,
Bit of a
Edmonton.
failure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had lost the respect of his family.
Oh, you're doing it again. That whole
Wanted by the
manipulation
police.
thing where you're like, oh, it's really bad. It's really bad. This guy's terrible. Last question I have for you, and I think this is kind of for the group, but we talk about this from time to time. In your Canada's Dads, Brittlestar joins us. Stuart Reynolds, kind enough to join us. Look for him everywhere on any social, including TikTok and Twitter, and his YouTube channel, which is terrific. You can see backstories and your whole history there, which is phenomenal. But when it comes to dadding in the pandemic, like, I have these conversations with Lachlan. I have them with everybody on the program, and we talk about, like, I've had to change my role over the last 2 years, right? And I wasn't aware how important it was, and you mentioned it earlier, and in one of an interview I think you did a couple of weeks ago, how important modeling is. Like, I didn't know how important modeling, a good attitude was. I didn't know how important it was to, like, kind of, if you're having a bad day and your kids are having a bad, you got to stop having a bad day. Like, have you learned a different way to parent over the pandemic? That's and has it kind of forced you to learn a different way to parent over the pandemic at all, or have you
Yeah.
always been a tremendous father who doesn't? Parent?
The latter.
Yeah, thought so.
No. I mean, I think that I think it's not just the pandemic, but I think the pandemic kind of made people really aware of the fact that, or made me really aware of the fact that you kind of have to balance yourself between that role of the parent being like, it's like you're driving through a scary part of town or something. It's like, it's okay. We're going to get through this. Everything's going to be fine. It's all right. We're going to do it. There's a little bit of that. But then at the same time, I think it's important for you to show your kids that it's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to experience those emotions, knowing that they're all temporary. They're all going to run their course and come out. You're not going to be stuck in that one mode forever. You're going to come out of it. And you can kind of demonstrate that. I mean, there's been times when I've said, like, for these pandemic wobbles I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'd be like, I would say to my kids, I'm strung out, anxious. I'm stressed out by this. I don't know. I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed, and I just need to pause for a bit and just relax for a little bit. And that means, whatever that means, if that means lying down on the floor, or if that means cutting out social media, or if that means, Daddy's going to go drink in the shed. No, I don't drink in the shed. It's too cold. It's too cold in the shed. I drink proudly in front of my children. But it's being honest with your kids, and I think that's really important to let them know that it's okay to feel the way they're feeling. Because I think the worst thing you can do as a parent is make a kid feel like the way they're feeling isn't valid.
Weird.
And that's not a good thing. As far as parenting goes, I don't think that's a good thing to do. I think you have to make sure they feel like it's okay, and it's all part of life, and it's gonna be up and down, and you're gonna roll through it. So don't worry, you're gonna get through this.
How have
So
you coped?
don't use "suck it up, princess."
Rub some dirt on it, fella.
That's what Shannon says to me when I'm lying on the ground. She'll just come up and kick me in the ribs. Suck it up, princess. Then she goes out and gets dirt, brings it back in,
Rubs it.
and throws it on me, and then tells me to vacuum it up. It works.
Oh, just gives you a
It works.
project, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it works every time.
What kind of coping mechanisms do you use? I meditate. We talk about a bunch of different things, but what has been important to you during the last couple of years?
Drinking.
Other than drinking. Or drinking too, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there's like that weird line is sort of like, slightly joking aside, you do have to kind of be, temperate in your drinking. You can't just go nuts and expect that's going to solve it, because
Let me write that down.
Yeah.
Walk.
All you do
How do you
is feel
spell
like
temperate?
shit and you're still stressed. But I mean, I think for me, it's been music. I listen to music. I do exercise. So we have a treadmill. So I have this thing where every week I'll listen to the newest releases on New Music Friday and force myself to go through them. And there's some stuff I love and there's some stuff I hate. But it keeps my mind, at ease, and the exercise really, really helps. And then also breathing exercises are like super important for me. Whether that be like using like your Apple Watch's, breathing thing, which is actually really good, or even doing the 4-7-8 breathing technique, which is to stop you from being fight or flight, to like break your anxiety and all that kind of stuff.
So
which is really important.
nervous system break, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
4 in, 7 hold, 8 out.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. People don't realize how important that breathing is, because it's about not just. It literally is telling the autonomic parts of yourself, it's okay, you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, I think
count. I'm like.
Booze, yeah. Here we go.
if you pass out,
Am I at
it's
9?
been too long. Yeah.
If you pass out, it's been too long. But don't get down on yourself, because it's just practice.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the thing. It's only temporary, and when your family revives you, if they want to, then exactly. Yeah, that's just on your. You're supposed to do it on the chest, not the face. Yeah.
It
But
worked, didn't
I
it?
mean, it's weird, because I've had to do that stuff as a dad, right? Like as a dad, I've
Yeah.
had to literally, and you mentioned
Your
it earlier,
box breathing in front of the kids.
Yeah. They're like, I think Dad's mad.
Hold on, he's
giving
not on the
myself times
vape.
out.
He's not on the vape. What's wrong?
I'll give myself a timeout now.
Will you
Okay, boys. Yeah, daddy needs 5 minutes. I'm going to my room, and
Totally
I
fair.
walk away. And
Yeah.
I just walk away for a few
There's
minutes.
something to that, though, brother.
Yeah.
I think you're okay with that.
Oh no, it's because I've lost my cool, and the wife was like,
You need
"If
to
you
take a
feel
break.
big feelings again,
Yeah.
you know,
How they call
you
them?
need to walk away."
You need to fuck off for a bit. Daddy's gonna fuck off for a bit.
Go to
I'm
my
gonna take
room,
this
cry for
drink.
5 minutes.
In my room. That's what I'm gonna do.
I always get the pre-warning though. Like, 'cause now I'm an empty nester, right? So the kids come back occasionally. So the wife will have a nice, we're going to have a meal tonight. And then she'll go, there's a reason for the nice meal. Your children are coming home. Lachlan,
Oh,
which means we have to talk about your behavior around them. So I get the pre-conversation before the children come back.
Yeah.
So it's always nice.
Yeah,
Always
but you're not
getting a little
Canada's
reminder.
dad, right?
No, I'm not.
No,
No.
no.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not Canada's dad at all.
Yeah, that's a lofty one. I hope you live up to it. It's got to be tough. I mean, Canada's dad.
well, it's funny because I'm often people refer to as Canada's dad, but my claim is that the bio is internet's favorite dad, which I stole from Alan Thicke. So that's slight
allow.
modification. Yeah.
We'll allow.
Well, it's a big, it's lofty. I can tell you this is that the difference that you've made, and I know we follow each other. I support the stuff that you do because it makes all kinds of sense to me. It's not just a PSA, and maybe the greatest troll job on the planet every time you do it. But I love the fact that you're taking time and it's genuine, and you can see genuine success stories like this. They come from the right place. And just the fact that you've been honest today and talked about, just the everyday things that we all go through in a matter of fact way. Super, super grateful that you chose to spend some time with us today. Larry David once said, you can take my time and you can take my shit, but I can get more shit. So just don't take my time. So I hope it wasn't that much of a waste of your time today, Stuart.
No, I had it right, and I want to thank you guys for what you're doing as well. It's fun to watch, the show do well, and it's fun to watch that sort of slightly unhinged view, except from the common sense side, which is good. So that's nice.
Well, that's what we do here.
Can we write that down? That would
That's
be
the
great
clip.
for the bio.
Put that.
Slightly unhinged.
Yeah, we'll do it.
But
Stuart,
leans
thanks.
on common sense occasionally.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of that either. But thanks, brother. Really appreciate it. You have a wonderful day.
Nice meeting you, Stuart.
Thanks so much, guys. Take care. See ya.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
take care. There's Stuart Reynolds, Brittle Star. What
You
a
know what?
fucking
You
great
gotta
guy.
You have to worry about those quiet, funny assassins.
Can I tell you something?
Like quietly funny, but he's like, it's not in your face. It's
No.
yeah, it's
He's
and it'll get
subtle.
you. Yeah.
First of all, thanks to Joe for setting that up because he was on Joe's show, That Nerd Dad, which is one of our best podcasts, which you need to go and subscribe to on YouTube. That Nerd Dad on YouTube. That Nerd Dad on YouTube. You got to check it out. It's like a 7-minute podcast. Sometimes he goes a little over.
It's like
sometimes
30
it's
now. I'm doing
It's
interviews.
like 30. Yeah. Sometimes it's over. He's growing. But it's a wonderful podcast, and he
We
features
don't really
all kinds of
worry
people.
about time.
And he had, it's a construct. It doesn't matter to me. It never has, especially other people's, by the way. I don't care about your time. I care about mine. And I want to thank you for having him on and setting that whole thing up. But I was nervous to start the podcast. I've partied with Gretzky. I've partied with Motley Crue. I've done it all. I've played golf with PGA Tour player. I've done it all. Not nervous. I was legitimately a little bit nervous before we got on the show. I'm like, what if this guy's like not as nice as he seems? And he was like,
That happens
nicer.
though.
Yeah.
I got a couple of examples of that in my career, like interviewing people where they have this persona, right? On their television character or whatever, and you think, oh, that's gonna be easy. And then you get them on the phone and they're just raging cocks. Right?
Like Martin Short. I was so
Is he?
excited to talk to Martin Short. He came on the show once, this is years ago, and was the biggest ass I've ever talked to in my life. And I'm like, what a sad disappointment. And it was like I got PTSD from that. So I respect Stuart Reynolds and Brittle Star and his content so much. And I've really appreciated what he's been doing to the point where it's been like, you know how he was talking about how you don't want to like people's stuff because you're like, I'm not cool if we like it. Like, I like his stuff. I'm like, this is great. Way to go. And I'm like, part of me is like, oh my God, I hope he doesn't think I'm a fanboy. But I
fanboy is
am.
a big problem, with him, I imagine.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I
It's
had the same
gotta
thing
be.
when he responded to my DM initially when I was setting up the interview. I had the same response. I was like, I'm gonna embarrass myself during this interview, just so you know.
And all he did the entire time was make every single one of us comfortable and make everything we said better and enjoy his time here.
Yeah.
That's a good man.
That's
Okay.
that's a good interview guest, right? Like that's somebody who's done it before, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Good guy.
I made notes for today's show too, by the way.
What?
Oh yeah,
What's
I made
going
a ton
on
of
here?
notes. Well, that's how I get unnervous.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I prep. So
Yeah.
when I'm not nervous, I don't do any work because I'm like, I got this. And then I was like, I'm going to talk to Stuart. And I think it's weird because I think like there's a mutual admiration there, which he indicated at the end, which I thought was weird. And I'm like, oh, maybe other people feel this way too. Like maybe other people in this, because I'm so insulated on Twitter, right? Like we've got we've got a whole socials team that does an incredible job. Because it's too much. All of this and the writing and the business and the work and stuff is just too much. And so when I spend time on Twitter, I spend time on socials. I only spend time with like as Joe, and it's a brilliant thing to do. It'd probably save your brain if you did the same thing. I only spend time on the things that I think are interesting or positive or fun or acerbic. I don't get into the sewer anymore. Do I tell people they're fucking idiots from time to time? Maybe. But that's my time is like important on Twitter because I don't like wasting it, right? Like I don't doom scroll or any of that shit. And I know I got to do that on TikTok. So we just started a TikTok thing. But I hold him in that high esteem where I'm like, I'm going to spend time going through this guy's timeline, right? Like where you're like, this is an interesting person. I'm going to go through his timeline. So when you get him on your show, you're like, where do I start? Are you like that too, Joe? Or you bring this guy on that's just incredible on his platform and he means so much to the country right now. So I think he does anyway, specifically the content. You're like, man, I hope he's just as cool as he is on his content. And he's fucking cooler.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. When you're talking to him, you feel like you're getting his undivided attention.
Yeah.
And it might sound weird, but it almost sounds like he's prepped for your interview as well, as prepared as you are. And you have your notes, and I always have my notes. They're not as messy as yours. They're usually bullet points. I'm number one. I'm number one.
Yeah, I'm a bad note taker.
Anyways, but he feels like it feels like he's prepared for the interview, and that's what it makes him special. It does.
Yeah.
And the version that you get before when you're prepping with him and you're kind of shooting the shit 5 minutes before you go on is the same guy who kind of just comes forward. It's
the interesting thing about where we're at right now, like and how we're all
now we're
I'm hearing people sorry.
No, we're just blowing them. Hey. If I was Stuart and I was sitting here, I don't even know if he's listening to this.
Yeah.
But if I was Stuart and I was sitting back listening to this, I would be like, you're right. I am great.
I'm the best.
Well,
these guys get it.
The interesting point about where we're at right now, and I think everybody is doing this to a certain extent, and I'm hearing people talk about some of the strategies that they're using to cope with what we're dealing with right now. And just even Dean's comment about how he's sort of rejigged how he approaches social media, right? Like that's just a thing. I think we should at times you need to take a step back and realize what our contribution is. And I see it occasionally on this pod and on my show. And it's people need stuff like this in their life right now so they can get off the wheel, right? And get off the treadmill of doom and actually have a laugh. And I think that's a big part of what Stuart brings to the table as well. Whereas he can still take that serious content but approach it from a funny perspective, a unique perspective, get you thinking about it. But it's not that doomsday reel or that fucking
no, but it was fascinating to hear that he's had moments too, right? Like we've all had moments, and I think the expectation is when you're trying to model better behavior, you're trying to be a better parent. Because I don't know about you, Joe, but that in the pandemic, that is the entire job of a parent.
Yeah,
is to get as healthy mentally as you can, so that you can be an effective role model for your kids. It's not about parenting or rules or saying this is where it's done and how it's done and you're a failure. It's all about, hey guys, this is how we act and this is what we do. Because what I've noticed is my kids have been significantly healthier over the past couple of years, and have a way better outlook, and it matches mine at times now. Do you know what I mean?
Well, but you have to find what's going to work. What works for you? I mean, when I first started working from home, I've been very fortunate to work from home the entire pandemic. The first thing I noticed was I had a hard time with the switch from ending work at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock and instantly having to become super dad. I didn't get that drive to go pick them up. I didn't get that commute to play some music and kind of clear my head and get. It's like you had to flip a switch. So you had to find what was going to work for you so you could clear your head right before. So in between the walk from my office down the stairs, I was ready to go and be dad again because I couldn't be the same asshole I am at work. I had to be dad again. And and I ended up falling into this kind of podcast thing because it became a hobby of mine, gave me something to think about, broke up the routine. But everyone's different. I know some people go for walks immediately after work or something like that to kind of simulate a commute and clear their head. Some people immediately work out. You got to find something that's going to work for you, so
Yeah.
you can be there for your kid and present, right? Because your kids will know if you're distant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I get
think
reminded of
people, like,
my distance, even to this day,
daily.
for my kids.
That's all right. It's a
I
work in
got
progress.
reminded by my daughter, "Are you going to come up and hang out with us?" And I went, "No."
You've been around me
You're
for
just
22 years.
fucking
I need a
ignore
break.
me
Yeah.
when I go up
No, but
there.
it was like when I would go to work and I would come home and I would use work and the work that I had to do as an excuse to not maybe do some parent stuff, right? You can't avoid it now.
Yeah.
You know what I
The
mean? Like
parenting
there was no avoiding it. And that was the fucking wake up call I had. It was like 2-3 months into the pandemic. I'm like, oh my God, I got to get my shit right. Like I got to get me right because I can't have that perspective. Like I can't not want to look forward to seeing my kids every single day because we're going to fucking live in the same house every single day
You know
for
what?
months on end.
Joe mentioned something too that I think is worth highlighting. And I know you were joking, but I think it's actually a very smart thing to do. And I don't know how old your kids are, but I think even if they're young, they'll probably appreciate this down the road.
6 and 2.
6 and 2. Just you, I'm sure the 6-year-olds gets it on some level. He might not be able to articulate it, or she, but the fact that you're willing to say, "Hey, I'm not good right now. I'm gonna go take a timeout," I think is important when you're a parent. And it's not something we would have gotten away with 20, 30, 40 years ago as a parent.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty open about
Admitting
my,
a fault.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty open about my mental health issues, and I, part of me worries that it's going to be passed down to my kids through genetics, and being able to kind of handle that anxiety and those stressors, and what to do and how to model it for them.
Yeah.
So we when the 6-year-old gets pissed off or is having a bad day, I'll say, do you need to go have a timeout? But it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like he
No.
understands that you need a timeout could just mean, do you need 5-10 minutes to yourself to cool it?
Yeah.
Because dad does it. Dad takes a 5-10 minute timeout.
I think
So-
that's important,
Normalizes
Joe.
it for him. Yeah.
Joe, I think that's important. I think that's something that you've done, that a strategy, whether you've done it on purpose or not. I think it'll pay dividends down the road with your children, right? Regardless if they end up with your neurosis.
Shut up, clock.
By the way, there's no escaping it. I can't believe how wired my kids came out. Like when they popped out, they're still the same. I remember having this little ball, right, that just shit Nate, but had a personality, and you could feel that energy. You could feel that sort of, and both of them now still have a semblance of that wiring from when they popped out. I mean, I get the whole nature nurture thing, and you can fuck a kid up if you're putting cigarettes out on them and change them, right? But at the same time, they were pretty much wired.
Why do you have to go all the way to the end when you make a statement? It's like you don't even fucking stop for coffee. You're like, unless you're putting cigarette butts out on your children.
Well, that
Why are
used to
changing
happen
them?
back in the day, I'm sure.
That's a baby. You're putting cigarettes on.
It's weird though, isn't it? How wired they are. Like my youngest is, I mean, Riley. She was Riley from the get-go. And my oldest, the loud one, she was a gong show right
Your
from
kids
the
are going to be
get-go.
your kids no matter what. Whatever you pass on to them, you pass on to them. It's just really important, and especially in a time like this when we're going through some of the biggest shit on the planet, like ever, that we've ever gone through ever, for you to be fucking okay, right? And whatever that takes to be okay is really important as a parent. And it was really great to talk to Stuart about it because and to hear Joe talk about it, hear you talk about it. We've all had moments, we've all had things, we've all had times where we're like, can I do this? Like, can I navigate? Because I know, like, I was watching the nurses talk about how bad nurses have it last night on TV, and they do. They do. All of our medical professionals do, right? And there's a small part of me that when I hear people talk about how bad they have it, I'm like, you don't have it that bad, right? Like it's the life you live is the life you create around you, and if you're going to complain about, and that wasn't my thought, but my thought was this: is that I haven't heard a lot of dads complaining. You just know that they're drinking, right? Like I haven't heard a lot of people go, how are you dadding during the pandemic? And what are you doing to be an effective father? What are you doing to be an effective partner? I don't have that problem, thank God. But like, what are you doing for your mental health? And that's important, right? For everybody. It's important to normalize it for everybody because this is tough. I read a story the other day that said like liver disease is up 50% across the country.
Not in Alberta.
Year over year.
We were
No,
way
it's
ahead
like
of you. There's no
180.
way that percentage got any higher.
It's like 250%.
Oh, you other dicks in Ontario. You're just trying to catch up to us.
You can't get a bed at an addictions place in this province.
Oh, really?
That's tough. I mean, mental health wards full.
Wow.
I mean, this is a 12 alarm blaze. And so to normalize it for a lot of dads that are out there going, you guys like, it's so easy for Brittle Star to put out cute videos. He's getting paid and stuff like that. No. He's the same. He's the same. Oh, it's easy for Joe, that nerd dad, Mr. Dad podcast. He's like, no. You don't see him between the podcasts, right? Like you don't see these people when they're getting up in the morning with dread or wondering, am I going to be able to make it through the day, or is a PCR test going to come back and I got to go to work to make some cheese? Same with moms. I'm not blurring the lines between breadwinners here. What I'm saying is that I'm a dad, so I'm talking to dads. And there's a big load to carry around for everybody, right? It's tough. It's tough for people to get up and go, hey, fuck, I got to do all this stuff. And there's this like Neanderthalic feeling that every dad has, like, got to take care of everybody over here too at the same time.
Yeah.
And then we miss talking about these things. Like, how are you doing? And how are you coping? Right.
You bring up an interesting point. I mean, not that we want to, make this about gender, but you did. I mean, highlighting the fact that we are talking about dads here, and maybe ignoring the female side of things, the mother side of things. Moms have been dealing with this at home shit forever, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm not saying they're better equipped to cope with it, but I think a lot of men, a lot of dads got thrust into a world they weren't ready for when this pandemic hit,
every parent,
like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see that's interesting. You brought that up because I didn't really think of it until you brought it up. Right.
There's individual needs. Joe's got to go. Joe,
I gotta run. I gotta do dad duty. I gotta go get the kids.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Get out.
Take a break.
We'll cover. We'll cover for you while you're gone.
Finish the show up, guys. Could you please? Thanks.
Yeah, we will. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate
Bye.
it. Yeah. After you pick them up, too, take a 5-minute break. Guys, Dad needs a break. Dad, you just picked us up.
You know what was annoying about this show is there is far too much likable people on it. It's good that we finally
we balanced.
Yeah, the Stuart, fuck, way too likable. Joe, fuck off, way too likable.
Really likable guy.
Like, what is that? It's annoying.
Hey, listen. Now the riffraff's gone.
Now you're left with 2 dicks.
Think this will work?
Mandatory
vaccinations coming to Canada.
It's funny because my wife came out of the office because she got it. It came to her.
Yeah.
But it got sent to her, just the headline. And she went, holy shit, mandatory vaccines. And then I went, what? And then I flipped my phone on and I had a notification saying Canada. What's the headline?
Canada.
Mandatory vaccines coming to Canada, says health minister. So that's all. I didn't read the story. Then I came downstairs to log on to the podcast, right? And I was dealing with something at work related, so that's why I was late, and I didn't get a chance to read the story. Now, he probably got asked a question regarding the state of mandatory vaccines, and his opinion is that it's something that we're going to have to do eventually. And he is the health minister. He's a rather powerful individual from the government side of things. So I get get the headline, but this is why everyone hates the press. There's no plan right now for mandatory vaccines in Canada, right? And all this does is inflame people because the headline suggests that we need to prepare for mandatory vaccines. As interesting as that is to me, because I have a number of friends, like I actually sent a friend of mine a note and said, I need you to send this headline to so-and-so and please get him to videotape the reaction because I need some humor for my Friday night.
Oh, that's you trolling in real time with your friends.
Because he is literally he's going to have a meltdown if this happens. Like
well, I looked at the headline.
Lose his shit.
I looked at the headline, Locksky, and headline is the headline: mandatory vaccinations coming to Canada, says Health Minister. Right? That's the headline. And then the little tagline underneath it, I think they called them slug lines. I could be wrong.
I think that's a slug line.
Quote, I personally think we will get there at some point. Duclos said it in French. I can't speak French, so I won't be doing it in French. But that's what he said in French at a press conference today. And
so they're not coming.
He personally thinks they'll be here at some point is not mandatory vaccinations coming to Canada. However, fascinating because I put this out on Twitter with just the headline, wow, wow, wow. And of course, people have been filtering through, screaming and yelling about this. And, you know, it's interesting because a lot of people that I respect that have been quiet for a long period of time are like, we shouldn't do this.
I don't think we should do it either.
Should not do this. Where does it end? Body autonomy. And I don't think that argument plays. No, I don't think that argument plays.
I don't know. I'll disagree
I don't think
with
it
you,
does.
Dean.
No, well, because getting pregnant is not an infectious disease. It comes from, right? So, like that's different, right? Like, let's take it out of the fucking body autonomy conversation because you don't have body autonomy when you immigrate to Canada. You have to get a bunch of shots, right? You didn't have body autonomy I didn't in the third grade when we lined up in the gym and they're like, jab, 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 MMR, polio, mumps, measles, bat, smallpox. Here's another fucking vaccine. Bat. That's just what we do as a society to protect everybody. So to me, I still disagree with everybody that says it's body autonomy when it comes to the vaccines because it's not. It's public health, and we're in it for the citizenry of the republic, which is we're members of, and these are the laws of the land. So,
I think everybody should get vaccinated because I think we all need to protect each other, and I think that this is a disease that impacts us all. So if that's the case, then you need to think about everyone else, not just yourself. That's my opinion. I'm also aware that a lot of people feel very strongly about the vaccine and they're not going to get it because they don't think it's been tested long enough. And that's allowed. And we live in a country where you're allowed to have that stance. I mean, we also allow people to look for alternative means of treating things, right, Dean? Like, let's say you get something, and I don't want to muddy the waters here by picking one thing, but let's say you have an ailment, and there is
what kind of ailment? Syphilis.
I'm just saying, I don't want to muddy the waters because
is it a type of VD?
As soon as you name it, then everybody starts using that as a direct comparison to the vaccine or getting COVID or whatever. Let's just say Lachlan has an ailment, okay?
VD.
And there is path A to fix it, and there's path B to fix it, okay? Let's just say that ailment can be cured or potentially eased. The symptoms of it can be potentially eased by going both routes. And both routes have the unintended consequences that you would have from any kind of treatment to any ailment. But I get to choose. I get to decide whether or not I take path A or I take path B. We still live in that world. I can go to a natural path if I want to fix my toe fungus, or I can go to a family doctor to get a pill that will fix my toe fungus. Okay. I have that choice. COVID's a little bit different, but I still feel like we live in that country where that choice is available to you.
We don't.
When it comes to your medical health.
I don't think
and that's where I'm concerned about saying, yes, we should have mandatory vaccines.
I idealistically would agree with you, but we don't live in an idealistic. This is not.
If it happens, I'm going to giggle all the way to work every day.
Dude, if you thought the viral videos that gave us millions and millions of views this year were awesome before, wait till you see people kicking and screaming on the way into a gymnasium.
Oh, I can't wait for the fallout of this. I'm sorry, I should not be looking for the entertainment.
I know, me neither.
See, I'm ready for COVID to be over. I was also ready for the Trump presidency to be over. Okay,
but also enjoyed it and the content that it brought.
Exactly.
Yes.
And now that Trump is gone and no one will let him on any social media outlet, I am actually sad about that.
Me too, a little bit, yeah. That's how I felt when they dummied Chris Sky from Twitter. I'm like, it's probably a smart thing, but fuck, was that fun for a year and a half.
And now we don't know what's happening in that home in Leduc that he can't pay for.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But listen, back to the original state, and we'll wrap up with this because it's been too long and it's Friday and you've got beers to drink and I've got things to smoke. But
dude, I honestly need to hear the intro because I fucking, you know what it is?
It's also the extra, so you will.
It's the same thing? Okay, I'll hear it then on the way out here. Jimmy has COVID.
Oh, he does?
Jimmy's got COVID. So that's what I was dealing with. So the phones blew up and the boss was...
Is he okay?
I think he's going to be okay. He had symptoms this week, right? And so as soon as we found out, we isolated him. I'm actually thinking I probably should go in for another test myself. Just mind you, I know where he got it from, and I wasn't around him 2 or 3 days before that. So I think I'm fine. But we knew that there was a possibility of this just based on something that he got himself into on the weekend. So I literally called him on the Monday. We weren't on the air Monday, but we were on Tuesday. And I said, no, I think you should stay home. And he was like, yeah, I think you're right. I'll stay home.
Good call.
So he's been broadcasting from home. On Wednesday, he got a negative test. And then I said, well, get one more test. If you're negative on Friday, then we'll have you back on Monday. And then of course the test was positive. So that's what I was dealing with. I apologize, but so my phone blew up when he tested positive. So
no worries. As long as you're gonna be okay.
Yeah. I'm worried about him. I worry about him because he is, I don't know. We've talked about the shunt.
Yeah.
And Jimmy is a very typical male in that, literally he's got to have to go see a doctor, there's got to be
a limb has to be hanging off. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So he doesn't do the annual checkups. I forced him to go a couple of years ago. I forced him to go to the doctor for an annual checkup, and they had a list of stuff he was supposed to deal with, and he didn't deal with any of it. So he's that kid, right? So I am a little bit worried about that, but he also is double vaxxed, and I think he'll be fine.
How's he feeling? Have you talked to him about how he's feeling? Like, is he struggling at all? Is he laboring, or is he just feel like he got a flu?
Okay, so he had minor COVID shit on Tuesday, right? Or like Monday. So we were like, stay home. And then Tuesday, he's like, I feel fine. I said, well, go get a test. So on Wednesday, he got a test, or Tuesday, he got a test. What doesn't matter. It was negative. He goes, I don't think I'm doing all bad. I'll stay home for the rest of the week. We decided that was probably the smartest thing to do. Because a lot of times with this new variant, and again, I've been hearing, this is just rumor, hearsay, but people are feeling like they might have symptoms. They test negative, and then 3 days later, they test positive, right? Mm-hmm. So I was worried about that. He was as well. So it was the right thing to do to keep him at home. And then today, when we tuned in, when we turned him on, like he's got a unit in the living room at the dentist sadness split, he came on, and both Grant and I were like, whoa, dude, you do not sound good. He goes, oh, I just got into it last night. of course, he drank 13 beer last night after he recorded his podcast, the Jedi
Jimmy podcast. Yeah.
So he wasn't sure if he was hungover or if he had more symptoms this morning. So I'm going to keep an eye on him, and I'll make sure that he's fine. I dropped off some beer for him today because he's out of beer. And
no vegetables or vitamin C. You took over some pints.
I asked him if he needed any groceries. I think he's been doing a lot of
Just
skip.
beer. Just bring over the beer. I got to drink through this bad boy.
And yeah,
Just
you
bring
know
the
what? Maybe
beer.
that'll work. Anyway,
I
Jimmy will be
fucking-
fine.
Good.
But he's got the shunt, eh? Like, you know
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, it's a tube in his head that drains water because he had hydrocephalus when he was a kid. Hydrocephalus, great question, folks. If you don't know what it is, super simple. Water on the brain happens a lot to
I thought he had
preemies and
epilepsy.
oh, did they?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it is not a dwarf issue. Like, he's got dwarfism. That has nothing to do with it. It was just a kid thing.
Okay.
So, and
Well, I
of
hope he's
course,
all
he got put in 1986 or some fucking thing, and everyone's like, when's the last time you had it checked? I don't know, it's fine.
In the 80s.
And every time he sees a doctor,
Still
they
a
go, when did you
dude.
have it in? And they're 1986. What?
We
want
like
him to
those
get
people that go on like those knees, like fake knees. They're supposed to be like 10 years and they go on it for 30 and they're like, man, I don't know why my knee hurts. It's hard to imagine. Right? He's
Well,
one
they
of those
say
guys.
you're only supposed to have this thing in your head for 10 years. Well, it's been in there for 30 now. Like, seriously. Fuck
That's
it.
awesome.
I told him I want an upgrade. Like, so
Yeah.
you can get Bluetooth, and then we don't have to take speakers with us to the, like, when we golf.
Well,
We just play music through his shunt.
yeah. I hope he's all right, dude. Thanks for doing this today.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks to our friends Brittle Star, Stuart Reynolds for joining us today. That was a lot of fun. Follow him at Brittle Star. That's my friend Lachlan. You can listen to him every single morning on 95.7 Cruise FM in Edmonton. He's the morning show host there, host of The Locker Room. Follow him on Twitter as well, at Lachlan Cross.
I'll
ladies
follow
and
you back.
gentlemen. Yep, he'll follow you back. And look for him, Drunk Blogging with Lachlan Cross on
I want to do a review
DeanBlundell.com.
of the Bang Bus videos. So that might be my next blog.
Why?
I've got a. Do you want me to give you the whole thing now, or do you
Nope.
want people to read it?
I've never heard someone say, I'd like to review the Bang Bus because I know what the Bang Bus is. There's not a lot to review. We all know what happens on the Bang Bus.
I have some thoughts that
Okay.
are worth writing down. I'm just trying to find a time when my wife leaves so that I can watch
You can
watch a couple
porn.
of Bang Bus videos so that I can jot down some notes.
I'm sure you'll be jotting down a lot of notes.
Because it's really hard to jot notes down in the shower. I don't often have a pen with me.
And your other hand's busy.
Yeah, I'm not really good with my left hand.
Have a great day, brother. Good to see you.
All right. Oh, I want to hear the intro. We got a new intro from the.
Oh,
the
stick
fucking
around for
show.
the extra. This is
right.
Lachlan's extra. We'll see you on, folks.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks
good
everybody for joining us. Sign up for newsletter, DeanBlundell.com. We're out of here. Have a wonderful Friday. Here's the extra. We'll see you Monday. Bye, everyone.